Hi guys, how you doing today? I hope you're doing good. So here we are. So I was explaining to you how the society would be fed. So we were explaining to a group of people how to use the dimensional system to create a society. We have been seeing the first part, what is energy, how do I know the dimensional system, and how. So those two parts, and most of all, how is energy expressed in our manifestation world? So by the expansion and the contraction. And I've explained then to you how the dimensional system is finally a resume of this first thing which is happening, so the condensation and the expansion of the energy. So you just have to go to my previous video for seeing the schema, but I will show you. I feel like it's a good idea to do it. So here is the final image, which is the dimensional system. So it's what is dense here, the compactation of the energy, and what is subtle here. So last video is about those things you can see here. So go have a look if you don't understand where we are right now. Okay, energy which is expanded, this part, and which is contracted, this part. Then, so this is a sphere, we take a column, here's the column, we take a line out of this column, so we make a line out of this column. This is a line, and the images are explaining different functions of each of the stages of the dimensional system. So really, if you haven't seen it, go see the previous video, the fifth part. It starts to become easier to understand, so it won't be like a full of information in video. I think it's easy to get through if you've never seen it already. So now we are here. I was explaining to you that the vegan way of feeding people is the best way and is the only way which is used in the dimensional system, because it's the only really holistic way for a lot of people. So really go check this other video, because I don't want to make this video too long by talking about it. So here we go, let's go. So we were saying that the fifth dimension, or the forest inside of the world, here we take the fifth dimension of our world as the forest. We could take something else, but now it's the forest here. And why do we do it? Because the forest is the source of food. So that's why I tell you that, yeah, food will be only vegetable food. But it's how it is. People can get out of the system if they want, or even live on the frontiers of the system. And if they want to, they can eat meat, they can do whatever they want outside of the system. What I'm telling you is that the basis of the system, so the main way of providing food, will be through vegan food, veganism, so fruits, vegetables, and all those things. Because there is way to condense the proteins, for example, which are contained in certain foods. There is way to transform the food that we don't use sometimes now, and that's why we think it's not possible to eat only vegetables, but it is totally possible. So a lot of mammifers have done it, and it's just the way it is, because if you think about that, animals are just a big bag of vegetables being living. So what are most of animals eating? Like the cow, they eat some vegetables, and we eat cows. So if you think about it, it's just anyway. I will do a video on the veganism inside of the dimensional system. So you will. So the forest is the place represent the food, the creation of food. It also represents the creation of life. Life and food going together, obviously, in the manifestation, because it is life which is fed. So then what are we going to do here? So the fifth dimension here represents the inner dimension of the world. So the world is earth, and this inner dimension is the forest. So what we want to do is emulate those products that produces the forest. What we want to do is emulate the function of the forest, because we want to create food. So actually, I don't know what is happening, but the lighting is better on my phone. So it's easier for me to see the colors while looking to the phone. So here we are. The fifth dimension is connected to the sixth dimension, which is first it's yin part. So if we take the couple, Yeah, fifth dimension being the yang, sixth dimension being the functionment of the forest. So everything which is invisible but is the lines of functioning of the forest. So all the adjustment, all the mechanism that permits the forest to rise and to be sustained. So the cycles, all the things which are movements. So we don't really see the origin of the thing, we only see its manifestation. Okay. So the six is the knowledge about, we could say it like that to simplify it. It's the knowledge about how the forest functions. Okay. So here, to be able first to understand this, to know how the forest functions, because let's say that those people, they won't be able to have access to someone who channel. Let's say, yeah, there's people who channel like me, but there's not people like this everywhere, and we can't like count on those people for everything, or everyone would be dependent on them. So I, as a person who do this, got to give the more, or at least keys to other people to be able to do most of what they want to do by themselves. It's only really what I can't tell them or teach them how to do that I will channel and give them. It's kind of responsibility, you know. I have to let people develop themselves, you know. It's part of the equation when you get higher in the dimensions, you know. So anyway, it's something else maybe for you right now. So how are we going to understand this fifth dimension? By observing it. So we will have to observe how the forest creates food for a long period of time. We will have a look at the structures of the elements and the transformations. So for example, the trees, the fruits, but also the environment, like does it rain or not? Water is a structure and its transformation, it's coming from the cloud to the rain and then feeding the trees. So trees are a structure, the transformation is growing and giving food, and food is a structure, its transformation is happening and then either being eaten, either going back to the earth and creating another tree. So we will have a look at structures and the transformation, and we will have a look at cycles and their patterns. So by this I mean, I will write it because it's a little bit more subtle. So cycles and the patterns. For example, we will have a look at the basic cycles that we could see inside of the forest. So there will be birth or creation of material as the trees, and end, we're gonna name it. So the going back of the form to its origin, and then of course becoming another form. So this is a cycle. And on this cycle, we will try to understand as closely as we can its patterns. So let's say, for example, there is different phases of the growing of a tree. So there is the first stage where the tree is only a little seed that is getting out of the earth, you know. So here, there are some particularities. We have to look at how is the environment stable enough here on this super little environment, which is the seed growing up, and how it is stable here enough to permit the seed to grow up. So we're going to see that, for example, often there's other trees around, there is a certain rate of humidity in the air. So there's many things. There need to be shadows, all these things. So those are, so then the tree will grow, you know. When it will grow, there will be some other needs, like the sunlight, for example, the nutrients in the earth, etc. So in the cycle, there is patterns, okay? And in those patterns, there is other cycles and patterns. But to simplify it, we're only gonna say other patterns inside of the patterns. For example, to grow, the little seed needs some shadow, it needs some humidity, it needs some conditions for it to get out of the earth and to grow. A seed won't grow if there's no water and if it's super exposed to the sun. Okay? Then for the trees, it's the same. They need also nutrients inside of the earth. So it's pattern inside of the pattern. Okay? Life is about this, it's about inclusion. So it's normal that we see patterns inside of patterns on different scales that are almost the same. It's the projection of the first energy inside of its creation. So kind of the first rule inside of the second rule. So it's always a projection, okay? But just twisting a little bit itself, you know? Anyway, so those are the cycle and patterns. I've explained it to you. And then here there is the production of the fruit. Also here there will be patterns and cycle. Too much humidity can make maybe the fruit go rinse, I think we say, but anyway, if you see that there is something that is not normal on the fruit, it would mean that you can't eat it. But now we will have to understand how those things happened. Is it natural? Is it exceptional? Like understanding the patterns inside of the cycle, okay? Or the patterns inside of the pattern, the fruit being a pattern. You understand its patterns, so how it come here, how it stay here and healthy until the end. There's many things to know, you know. And the fruit is itself a pattern in the cycle of birth and end of the forest. It's a pattern inside of the pattern, you know, they come inside of each other. We could say the fruit is a pattern inside of the tree, and the tree is a pattern inside of the cycle. Birth, end, or birth, creation and desperation, we could say. Birth and end of the forest. Forest being made of trees for... Obviously, sorry. So this is how you do it, okay? You take an inner dimension, you look at how it functions, and then you understand the rules. But in this case, we're lucky enough that there are some people that have did it already, and that's great. So of course we can't take all that has been done as being the perfect truth, but we can take those things to experience them and to develop them. So I don't know how, why, but life has made me, how we say that, conscious of something which is called the permaculture nowadays, but I'm sure it has been used for many, many years until the dawn of creation of humanity, you know. But anyway, and it is a holistic enough system to give a try to, you know. So I'm going to channel again, and I think it will be done. So there is many rules. Okay, I'm gonna try to film it good enough here. Okay, so there's many rules. First is observation. Without observing something, you can't understand it. You can't even be aware of it. Okay. Then there's experimentation. Because what you see depends on elements, variables that you don't see for a big part. So you gotta experience it to adjust it to your own environments or invisible variables that you don't see too. Understand? Sorry. So observation for understanding. And experimentation for realizing, let's say. Okay. So those two things, they can get combined, and we obtain basically the human mind, we could say, the higher mind. So many humans have been doing it since the dawn of our time, you know. And it would be such ridiculous to not use this knowledge which has already been created, you know, and will just be stepping stones for us will just help us to rise our consciousness and communities, you know. So this is why, to me, it makes totally sense to talk about permaculture inside of this system. Why? Because as a form, I am limited to my environment and to my possibilities in time, but also physically. And I don't want to spend my time like channeling something which will be, I think, almost the same of something which has already been realized, you know. Maybe I will take time to channel something on the food and a kind of similar thing of permaculture, which will be totally channeled, you know. But right now I gotta focus myself on really the creation of systems, like how you make the humans inside of the system be able enough to rule it, you know, to rule it properly in a good way, and for it to keep its essence, first of all, but also to not degenerate in the future. So those are real questions. They demand time of me and energy, you know, attention. I have to be involved inside of it. Like psychically, but also physically, because I can't do something else while I'm doing it. So this is my first focus. Maybe I will have people that will come and work with me later, and we will be able to do some more work more rapidly, more fast. But right now, I do it the way I can do it. And on this thing, I am alone. I have people helping me on other things, but on the dimensional system for the moment, I am the only one really working it, So that's why right now I will, I will rest my feet on permaculture. It's an image, like, because it has proved me really about what I have learned about it, that it is holistic and that it works, and that it really shows the characteristic of space, of consciousness, or of the conceptual space. So it manifests the rules of creation. I can see it as abundance, connection, autogestion, meaning that there is mechanism of auto-regulation inside of the system, inside of the permaculture system. And those are signature of what is holistic and what will stay in the long run, So this is something which can be really considered pragmatically as something which is interesting, like useful. So, as I told you, it's not my job right now to find how, to find the, I don't know, I mean, I am not someone who's growing food. I'm growing systems, right now. So I will tell to those people, just have a look to permaculture. And while you are growing up the system, you can eat whatever you want. This is for the main source, the main providing of food of the system. So it's something you take like 10 years to put on for feeding at the end. I don't know, I don't want to say like numbers, which would be just took off of my head like this, but I think some people like 1,000 and 10,000. I think it can be doable depending on the surface, the area you have, But I think in 10 years, understanding a little bit how work the nourishing forest, that's how you call it in permaculture, it takes 10 years to grow, approximately. A forest which is going to give you food then and which will demand really few work to keep going on because it is auto-regulated. So this is the goal. Obviously, people who want to create societies, they will be motivated. So there is not just me, and so I'm focusing on my task, on my part of the work. So here it is. This is done. I've decided to go like 25 minutes long video now because I think that the knowledge starts to be easier to understand. And I was like looking at the past video, like, okay, it's really the limit. I can't give less information in one video. So now let's expand. I decided to go to 25 minutes. But for now, I think you have the whole idea. I won't elaborate on permaculture here because there is some really good people that have done it already. It is in English. You can find it on YouTube and the internet. It will be a good thing for your mind to go have a look by yourself there, and not being kind of dependent on my vision, because you are already really dependent on my vision about the dimensional system, as it is something I've channeled. So almost no one has told you ever about this, or only if you have heard about consciousness models, you can see some similarities, because of course other people have been working on consciousness models, and this is a consciousness model, a field of consciousness model, as I told you in the beginning. But anyway, it's okay if you don't understand it already, because we're more focused on the practical aspect. So you can see it as a model that makes you able to understand the world, okay? So a model of the everything, we call it like this, when this is a model that attempts to explain the everything and to give some prediction on the future based on those elements which are in the model. So giving kind of directions, or devices, we could say. This is what is made science for. It is for lightening our path, for knowing where we are going and be able to discover new places. So, and science is not only a hard science. Science is also a way of understanding life. It is a methodological way. It is a method, a strategy to understand life, which is used by everyone. Even monkeys use science in their way. They try different things and they see what work or not. This is science. So here it is for this part. I'm really happy to have included the permaculture inside of it because it makes a vibrate my heart. I feel like it will be really something in the future that is going to help us. So thanks to the one who has taken the time to discover it. Really, thank you guys. And yeah, peace and love. Understand, realize. See you.